Elier Kane wiped the sweat from his brow as he looked over his farm. The fields were quiet, the only sound was the soft hum of the wind moving through the tall grass. He had lived on this small patch of Andorra 5 for years, and the solitude was comforting. But that evening the sky was different. A strange light streaked across it, brighter than any star, and it crashed somewhere near the edge of his fields. Elier's heart thumped in his chest. He had seen shooting stars before, but nothing like this. Without thinking, he grabbed his flashlight and ran toward the crash. When he reached the spot, smoke and sparks filled the air. The ground was scorched and there was a faint smell of something metallic and strange. Elier's flashlight caught on a small movement. There, in the crater, was a tiny creature, curled up and shaking. Its scales shimmered with soft colors, like liquid light, and its eyes were large and intelligent. Elier's breath caught in his throat. It looked like a dragon from the old stories he had heard as a child. A real, living, breathing dragon. Only it was smaller than a human child and clearly weak from hunger. Elier hesitated. He had heard tales of alien creatures being dangerous, sometimes deadly, but he could not leave this one here to die. Slowly, he knelt down and extended a hand. The dragon looked at him with curiosity, tilting its head. Its small wings twitched and it made a soft, pained sound. Elier noticed the creature's chest rising and falling rapidly, its breathing shallow. He reached into his pack and found some rations he kept for emergencies. Carefully he offered the food. The dragon sniffed, then nibbled cautiously. Elier smiled, relief flooding him. He lifted the little dragon gently, cradling it as if it were a fragile object. Its scales glowed softly under the moonlight, and Elier felt warmth from the small body against his hands. He carried it back to the barn, moving slowly so as not to frighten it. Once inside, he set it on a blanket near the hay. The dragon's eyes followed every movement he made, and Elier felt a strange connection. It was as if the creature understood him and he understood it. The next few hours were tense. Elier stayed close, offering more food and water. The dragon's energy returned slowly, and it began to make small chirping noises. Elier tried to speak softly, telling it that it was safe, that he would take care of it. The dragon seemed to respond, curling up slightly but keeping its eyes on him. He realized that it was not just hungry, it was frightened, alone, and far from whatever place it had come from. Elier moved around the barn, fetching blankets and cleaning water containers. He worked carefully, trying not to scare the tiny dragon. He even found some old toys from when he had children visit the farm, placing them nearby. The dragon sniffed and pawed at them, curious and playful in a way that surprised Elier. It was learning quickly, watching him, mimicking small movements and even trying to make soft sounds that almost sounded like words. Elier laughed quietly to himself, marveling at the intelligence and sensitivity of the creature. Outside, the night deepened. The wind shifted, and strange sounds from the distant forest made the barn feel isolated. Elier's thoughts drifted to questions he could not answer. Where had the dragon come from? Was it alone? Would others be looking for it? He shivered but forced himself to stay calm. He knew that fear would only make the dragon nervous. It needed him to be steady, strong, and kind. Elier felt a determination rising in him. He had survived harsh winters and storms alone on this farm, and now he had a new challenge, one that was far stranger than anything he had imagined. As hours passed, the dragon's breathing evened out. Its small wings twitched as it settled into the blanket, and its glowing scales dimmed to a soft shimmer. Elier sat beside it, watching, and felt a deep sense of responsibility. This creature, fragile and alien, depended on him. He realized that the bond forming between them was special, something beyond words. He whispered to it, promising that he would not let anything happen to it. The dragon's head rested near his knee, and Elier felt an unexpected calm wash over him. The night stretched on, quiet except for the soft sounds of the dragon adjusting and the wind outside. Elier drifted in and out of awareness, always keeping one eye on his new companion. Occasionally, the dragon chirped softly, and he responded with gentle reassurances. Every movement, every glance, seemed to deepen their connection. Elier had always thought of himself as a simple human, a farmer living a quiet life. But now he understood that sometimes, the universe chose ordinary people for extraordinary moments. By dawn, the first rays of light filtered through the barn windows. The dragon stirred, stretching its tiny limbs, and Elier watched with awe. Its scales reflected the morning light like a prism, sending colors across the hay. Elier felt hope. This little creature, lost and alone, had survived the night, and so had he, in a way, by rising to the challenge. He knew the days ahead would be difficult. There would be questions, there would be dangers, and there would be discoveries that no human had ever imagined. But Elior also knew one thing clearly: he could not imagine life without this dragon now. For the first time he allowed himself to smile fully. The dragon blinked up at him as if understanding, and Elior laughed softly. A tiny, hungry alien dragon had appeared on his farm in the night, and through simple acts of kindness he had saved it. He did not know what would happen next, but one thing was certain: life on the farm would never be the same again. And maybe, just maybe, something magnificent was about to begin. Elior Kane woke early the next morning, the sun spilling gold across his fields. The dragon, which he had named Lyric, was awake too. Its small eyes glimmered with curiosity, and it stretched its tiny wings, shimmering with soft light. Elior smiled, amazed at how quickly the creature had recovered. Overnight, Lyric had become stronger and more alert. Every movement it made seemed thoughtful, as if it was learning, watching, and understanding everything around it. Elior knelt beside the little dragon and offered it a meal of soft fruit and protein rations. Lyric approached cautiously, sniffed the food, and then began to eat eagerly. Elior laughed softly. He had never fed anything so unusual, yet there was something comforting about the creature's trust in him. The bond between them was growing fast, stronger than Elior expected. He realized that this was no ordinary animal. It was clever, sensitive, and maybe even smarter than some humans he knew. Over the next few days, Elior and Lyric spent every moment together. Lyric followed him across the farm, watching as he tended the fields, repaired fences, and watered crops. The little dragon tried to mimic his movements. It nudged broken tools back into place, picked up small rocks with its claws, and even attempted to drag hay into the barn. Its tiny wings flapped as it struggled, and Elior chuckled at its determination. He began to talk to Lyric while he worked, telling it about the seasons, the weather, and the work that needed doing. Lyric responded with soft chirps, small puffs of smoke, and bright flickers from its scales. One afternoon, Elior noticed something unusual. Lyric was lifting objects that should have been too heavy for such a small creature. A sack of grain floated gently in its claws, suspended in the air for a few seconds before it dropped it carefully. Elior stared in awe. The dragon's powers were growing fast. It could move things with strength beyond its size. At first, Elior worried that Lyric might be dangerous, but the dragon never acted aggressively. It only helped, as if it understood Elior's intentions and wanted to be useful. The villagers, curious and cautious, began to hear about Elior's unusual visitor. Some came to see the creature hiding behind fences and trees. They whispered fears of alien attacks, dangerous creatures, and curses, but Elior ignored them. He knew that Lyric was kind, gentle, and intelligent. One evening he invited a few villagers to the barn. Lyric hesitated at first, but soon it approached them. The dragon allowed them to touch its scales, which were soft and warm, glowing faintly under their hands. The villagers gasped, and some even smiled. Elior realized that Lyric was helping humans overcome fear and misunderstanding, one small gesture at a time. As the days passed, the bond between human and dragon deepened. Elior taught Lyric small tasks around the farm. Lyric learned to carry baskets of vegetables, push carts, and even herd a few of the stubborn sheep. Its intelligence amazed Elior. The dragon watched his actions carefully, remembering every gesture, every instruction, and trying again when it made mistakes. Sometimes it would tilt its head as if questioning him, and Elior would laugh and adjust his explanation. Their communication was simple but effective: actions, gestures, soft sounds, and glowing signals from Lyric's scales. At night, Elior would sit by the barn fire, and Lyric would curl up beside him. Its small body emitted a gentle warmth that reminded him of a living lamp. Elior spoke to it about his life, about the loneliness he had felt farming alone, and about his dreams of seeing the stars. Lyric listened quietly, chirping softly in response. Sometimes, it would rest its tiny head on his shoulder or nuzzle his hand. In those quiet moments, Elior understood that this bond was more than friendship. It was trust, respect, and even love. He had saved Lyric, but Lyric had changed him as well. One morning a curious thing happened. Elior noticed that Lyric's scales shimmered brighter when he touched certain crops. He experimented and realized that the dragon's presence seemed to help the plants grow faster and healthier. It was subtle at first, but over a week the difference was clear. Crops that had struggled began to flourish. The villagers, once skeptical, began to see that this human and his dragon were doing something extraordinary. Elior felt a mix of pride and amazement. He had never imagined that saving a tiny dragon could affect his farm in such a remarkable way. As the weeks passed, Lyric grew stronger and its powers became more pronounced. It could lift larger objects, emit soft bursts of fire that could cook food or clear debris, and communicate more clearly through glowing patterns on its scales. Elia realized that Lyric was not just growing physically but also learning about the world and forming a deep connection with him. Every task on the farm became an adventure. Plowing the fields, feeding animals, and fixing fences became opportunities for them to work together and learn from one another. One afternoon, Elia sat on the porch and watched Lyric chase a butterfly. Its wings fluttered, leaving trails of light in the air, and Elia laughed in delight. He realized that the dragon was bringing joy not just to him but to the world around them. Villagers started to stop by more often, watching Lyric with amazement and curiosity. Children, once scared, began to approach the little dragon, and Lyric responded with gentle chirps and tiny puffs of smoke. Elia felt a deep sense of satisfaction. His farm, once quiet and ordinary, had become a place of wonder and connection. As night fell, Elia looked at Lyric sleeping on a blanket near the barn. Its chest rose and fell evenly, its small wings tucked close, and its scales faintly glowing in the moonlight. Elia smiled and whispered, "We're just getting started, Lyric. There's so much ahead for us." The dragon stirred slightly as if understanding, and Elia felt a warmth in his heart. He had taken in a small, starving alien creature, and in return he had gained a friend, a partner, and a reminder that kindness and courage could create something truly extraordinary. For Elia Kane, the days of simple, quiet farming were over. With Lyric by his side, every sunrise brought new challenges, new discoveries, and new joys. The human and dragon had formed a bond that would grow stronger with each passing day, and Elia knew that together, they could face whatever the universe would bring. The farm was no longer just a place of work, it was a home, a sanctuary, and the beginning of something magnificent. Elia Kane had grown used to the peaceful rhythm of life with Lyric. The little dragon helped him on the farm, protected the crops, and brought a strange, magical joy to each day. But one evening as the sun dipped behind the mountains, a sudden disturbance shook the sky. Bright lights appeared far above, moving faster than any ship Elia had ever seen. A strange hum filled the air, and the ground trembled slightly underfoot. Elia's heart pounded. Something was coming. He ran toward the fields, calling softly to Lyric. The dragon emerged from the barn, its scales glowing faintly in the dim light. Lyric chirped urgently, sensing Elia's tension. Elia tried to calm himself as he scanned the sky. Ships were descending, sleek and dark, with strange symbols glowing along their hulls. He realized immediately that these were not explorers, they were hunters. The kind that sought rare creatures to sell, and Lyric was one of the rarest beings in the galaxy. Elia grabbed a few tools and supplies, trying to think quickly. The fields offered little cover and the ships would spot them easily. Lyric's small wings flared, sending a shimmer of light across the ground. Elia felt a mix of fear and determination. He had protected Lyric from hunger and loneliness. He would protect the dragon from anyone who tried to take it. The first ship landed with a loud thud, kicking up dirt and debris. Alien figures in dark suits emerged, their eyes glowing faintly. Elia hid behind a large haystack, whispering to Lyric, "Stay close. We can do this." The dragon crouched low, its body tense but ready. Elia had no weapon strong enough to face them, only his wits and the unusual abilities of his dragon companion. The hunters advanced, scanning the barn and the surrounding fields. Elia noticed that Lyric's scales flickered brighter, reacting to the danger. A sudden idea struck him. He grabbed a bucket of water and tossed it toward a pile of oil drums near the barn. Lyric understood immediately. With a tiny burst of flame from its mouth, the oil ignited, creating a bright wall of fire and smoke. The hunters recoiled, startled by the sudden attack. Elia took advantage of their confusion and moved closer to the barn, signaling Lyric to follow. Inside the barn, Elia and Lyric worked quickly. He lifted heavy objects to create barricades, and Lyric moved them with ease using its growing strength. The dragon chirped and hissed softly, following Elia's instructions like a trusted partner. Together they made the barn a fortress. Elia realized that Lyric was not just a creature to care for, it was a true ally, capable of understanding strategy and acting with intelligence. The hunters regrouped and launched a scan of the area. Elia could see their devices picking up Lyric's glowing scales. He knew they would find the dragon soon if he did not act. He whispered urgently, "We have to move, Lyric. Follow me." The dragon leapt onto a sturdy beam, gliding silently toward the back of the barn. Elia led it to a hidden tunnel he had dug years before to store supplies in case of emergencies. The tunnel was narrow, but it would hide them from scanners temporarily. As they moved through the darkness, Elia felt his heart racing. The hunter's footsteps and voices echoed faintly above. Lyric's soft glow illuminated the way just enough to avoid tripping. Ellier's mind raced. How had this simple life on a farm turned into a battle for survival? But seeing Lyric's trust in him, the courage in the little dragon's eyes, he felt a surge of determination. He would not fail. Suddenly, one of the hunters discovered the entrance to the tunnel. Ellier froze, realizing that they had only moments before the intruders reached them. He whispered, "Now, Lyric, do it." The dragon hesitated, then flared its wings. A bright wave of energy shot from its body, a mixture of heat, light, and force. The hunters were thrown backward, their suits sizzling under the unexpected blast. Ellier felt relief and pride. Lyric's powers were growing faster than he had imagined, and together they could protect themselves. The hunters recovered and tried again, more cautiously this time. Ellier led Lyric deeper into the tunnel, ducking under low beams and crawling through narrow passages. Lyric moved with surprising grace even in the tight space. They emerged in a hidden clearing at the edge of Ellier's property. From there, Ellier could see the ships above, scanning the farm, but the dragon's ability to hide and act quickly had given them a small advantage. Ellier and Lyric watched as the hunters made a final attempt to find them. Ellier knew they could not hold out forever. He took a deep breath and whispered, "We have to fight smart, Lyric. They underestimate us." The dragon chirped softly as if agreeing. Ellier remembered the patterns of its glowing scales. Perhaps they could use them to distract the hunters, confuse their scanners, and buy more time. He grabbed a few old mirrors and reflective metal pieces from the barn. Lyric understood instantly. They positioned the mirrors around the clearing. When the hunters scanned the area with their devices, Lyric flared its scales, bouncing light off the mirrors in dazzling patterns. The hunters' sensors were overwhelmed and they staggered, shielding their eyes. Ellier took the opportunity to lead Lyric toward a hidden path that exited the property. The escape was tense. Lyric lifted small logs and rocks, clearing the way silently. Ellier moved as quickly as he could, keeping the dragon close. The hunters shouted, but the confusing patterns of light and smoke slowed them down. By the time the aliens recovered, Ellier and Lyric had disappeared into the forest beyond the farm. Ellier felt his pulse slowing, relief washing over him. Lyric landed beside him, tired but alert. Its soft purrs were a comfort after the chaos. As they rested in the shadows, Ellier looked at Lyric and smiled. The little dragon had not only survived the attack, but it had also saved him. Its powers, intelligence, and courage had turned the tide. Ellier realized that their bond was no longer just friendship. It was trust, strategy, and mutual respect. He whispered, "We're going to be okay, Lyric. Together we can face anything." Lyric blinked up at him, eyes bright and warm, as if promising that they would face the universe side by side. The night grew quiet again, the stars above shining faintly. Ellier and Lyric, a human and a dragon, had survived their first battle against the hunters. But Ellier knew this was only the beginning. Out in the galaxy more dangers could come. Yet with Lyric by his side he felt ready. They had discovered something incredible. Together they were stronger than anyone could imagine, even when faced with threats from the stars. Ellier Kane sat on the edge of the forest, the quiet night surrounding him. Lyric, now larger than when they first met, lay curled beside him, its soft glow filling the shadows with gentle light. The attack from the hunters had left him shaken, but it had also made something clear. The little dragon was more than a creature in need, it was a partner, a friend, and a bridge between worlds. Ellier touched Lyric's scales gently, feeling the warmth and the pulse of life beneath. He whispered, "We made it through. I think we're ready for what's next." The following days brought calm, and Ellier used the time to learn more about Lyric. He noticed that the dragon was curious about everything, the stars, the crops, even the simple tools on the farm. Lyric would tilt its head, blink in patterns of light, and sometimes nuzzle objects to examine them. Ellier laughed as he watched it try to mimic his work, pushing a wheelbarrow clumsily or nudging a fence post. Its intelligence amazed him. He realized that Lyric was not only learning from him but also teaching him to see his world differently. One morning, Ellier decided to introduce Lyric to the villagers. He gathered a small group, cautious but curious, and led them to the barn. Lyric emerged slowly, glowing softly, wings tucked close, and chirped in a low, welcoming tone. The villagers froze at first, unsure of what to expect. But as Lyric stepped forward, gently nudging a basket of fruit toward them, their fear melted into awe. Children reached out tentatively, and Lyric responded with soft puffs of smoke and playful flickers of light. Ellier smiled, realizing that this dragon was teaching humans to overcome fear with trust and kindness. Elior began to understand that Lyric's abilities were not just physical. Its glowing scales, its fire bursts and its lifting powers were impressive, but the true marvel was the connection it shared with him. Lyric seemed to sense emotions, understanding Elior's intentions and responding accordingly. When Elior was worried or tired, Lyric stayed close, offering comfort and warmth. When Elior was cautious or calculating, Lyric acted with precision, following instructions almost perfectly. It was as if they shared a silent language, a communication beyond words. Word of the human and the dragon began to spread beyond the village. A few alien scientists arrived, curious about the unique bond. Elior was wary at first, but he welcomed them cautiously. Lyric watched the newcomers carefully and then, unexpectedly, it approached them. The scientists were amazed, not just at Lyric's intelligence and powers, but at the way it interacted with a human without fear. Elior explained how he had found Lyric starving, how he had fed it, cared for it, and worked together on the farm. The scientists nodded, realizing that this bond was unprecedented. A human and an alien dragon, learning and cooperating, showing trust across worlds. Elior and Lyric began exploring ways to communicate more clearly. They developed simple signals using Lyric's glowing scales, soft chirps, and gestures. Lyric seemed to understand more each day, responding to subtle cues and even predicting Elior's intentions. Together they experimented with tasks on the farm, improving efficiency and protecting crops. The dragon could lift heavy loads, water fields with precision bursts of energy, and even detect pests before they reached the plants. Elior marveled at how much the dragon enhanced life on the farm, and he felt pride in their partnership. But the bond was not just practical, it was emotional. Elior discovered that Lyric understood his feelings in ways no human could. When Elior was lonely, the dragon stayed close, its warmth and soft hums a comfort. When Elior was excited or curious, Lyric mirrored his enthusiasm, its scales glowing brighter, wings flapping with energy. They celebrated small victories together, like a bountiful harvest or a repaired fence, and comforted each other during setbacks. Their connection went beyond survival, it was companionship, a deep and lasting friendship that crossed species and worlds. One afternoon, while watching the sunset, Elior realized something remarkable. Lyric's presence seemed to affect more than just the farm. Plants grew healthier near the dragon, animals were calmer, and even the air seemed lighter. He experimented, observing the dragon as it moved among the fields. Crops that had struggled flourished when Lyric passed by, and the animals followed it with trust and ease. Elior laughed softly, realizing that Lyric was not just a creature to be cared for, it was a force that could nurture, heal, and protect. Together they were shaping the farm and perhaps the world around them in ways humans alone could not. The villagers began to accept the dragon fully. What had been fear turned into respect, curiosity, and awe. They saw how Elior and Lyric worked as a team, how their bond strengthened both of them. Children played nearby, laughing as Lyric chased them gently, and adults marveled at the harmony between human and alien. Elior felt a deep sense of fulfillment. By saving a small, starving dragon, he had created something extraordinary. A bridge between species, a connection that transcended fear and suspicion. At night, Elior often sat with Lyric under the stars. The dragon curled beside him, its glow illuminating the barn and surrounding fields. Elior spoke quietly about his dreams of exploring the stars, of learning more about the universe, and of sharing this bond with others. Lyric chirped softly, flicking its scales in patterns that seemed like agreement. Elior understood that their partnership had grown far beyond the farm. Together they had discovered something rare and magnificent, the ability of two very different beings to understand each other, to trust, and to create something bigger than themselves. Elior Kane had started as an ordinary farmer, and Lyric as a tiny, starving dragon. But together they were becoming something extraordinary. Their bond was more than friendship. It was a symbol of hope, cooperation, and the possibility that humans and aliens could coexist, learn from each other, and achieve remarkable things. As the night deepened, Elior looked at Lyric and whispered, "We're ready for whatever comes next." The dragon blinked slowly, glowing softly, and Elior knew it understood. Side by side, human and dragon, they would face the universe together, bridging worlds and creating a new path of wonder and trust. Elior Kane stood at the edge of his farm, watching Lyric soar through the sky. The dragon had grown strong and majestic, its wings spreading wide as it glowed with colors that shifted like sunlight on water. Elior felt a surge of pride and awe. He had started as a simple farmer, and now, with Lyric at his side, his life had become extraordinary. The bond they shared was unbreakable, a connection between human and alien that had changed both of them forever. The morning air was fresh, filled with the sense of earth and growing crops. Elior moved through the fields with Lyric following closely. The little dragon had grown fast, but it still loved helping on the farm. It lifted sacks of grain with ease, carried heavy tools and even nudged carts along the paths. Elior laughed as he watched Lyric chase a wayward sheep, nudging it gently back toward the pen. The villagers had grown used to the dragon. Children played near it, laughing as Lyric flicked soft sparks in harmless patterns, while adults looked on with amazement and respect. Word of the human and his dragon spread throughout the planet, and soon other humans and alien visitors came to see them. Elior welcomed them cautiously, showing how Lyric helped on the farm, how it could lift, cook and even protect. Many had doubted such a partnership could exist, but seeing Lyric's intelligence and gentle nature changed their minds. Elior explained how he had found the tiny, starving dragon and how kindness had created this incredible friendship. Listeners nodded in awe, some even shedding tears at the story of trust and courage. Lyric had also become a protector. When storms swept across the land or predators threatened the animals, the dragon would swoop in, its wings creating gusts of wind and its soft bursts of fire warding off danger. The villagers saw that the dragon was not only gentle but powerful and wise. Elior marveled at how far Lyric had come. The little creature he had saved had grown into a magnificent being, capable of incredible feats. Yet it remained loyal, playful, and deeply connected to him. Their teamwork had become legendary. Elior and Lyric also discovered new ways to communicate and share knowledge. The dragon's glowing scales had patterns that changed with mood and intent. Elior learned to read them, understanding what Lyric felt and even predicting what it might do next. Lyric seemed to understand human emotions more than most people Elior had met. Together, they experimented with using the dragon's abilities to improve the farm. Crops grew faster, animals were healthier, and even the land itself seemed to flourish where Lyric spent time. The partnership had become more than friendship, it was harmony. One evening Elior and Lyric stood atop a hill, looking at the stars. Elior pointed to a distant cluster and whispered, "One day maybe we can explore out there together." Lyric chirped softly, glowing brighter, wings twitching with excitement. Elior felt hope. The dragon was not just part of his life, it was a bridge to the wider universe. He imagined visiting distant planets, meeting other creatures and showing the galaxy that humans and aliens could work together. The thought filled him with pride and purpose. The villagers now accepted Lyric completely. Fear had turned into fascination, respect, and joy. Children wanted to learn from the dragon, and adults sought Elior's advice on how to live in harmony with it. Elior encouraged everyone to treat Lyric with kindness and care, teaching that courage and empathy could create incredible results. Lyric became a symbol of hope, a reminder that even a small act of compassion could lead to magnificent outcomes. One day Elior noticed something extraordinary. As Lyric moved through the fields, the plants responded to its presence. Crops grew taller, leaves shined brighter and fruits ripened faster. Animals followed Lyric calmly, trusting its guidance. Elior realized that Lyric was not only powerful and intelligent but also a force that nurtured life. Their bond had transformed the farm into a thriving, living ecosystem. It was no longer just a place of work, it was a place of wonder, harmony, and growth. Elior also began to see how their story inspired others. Humans from nearby towns and distant planets visited to witness the partnership. Some brought their own creatures, hoping to learn from Elior and Lyric. Alien researchers studied the dragon's abilities, amazed by the intelligence, strength, and gentle nature of a being raised by a human. Elior understood that the dragon's presence was changing perceptions, breaking barriers, and showing that cooperation could bridge even the widest divides between species. At night, Elior and Lyric often sat together under the stars. Lyric curled beside him, scales softly glowing, warmth radiating against the cool air. Elior spoke of his dreams of exploring new worlds, and Lyric chirped, wings fluttering in excitement. The quiet bond between them was more than friendship. It was trust, understanding, and shared purpose. Elior knew that they had discovered something rare, the ability to change the universe together, one act of courage and kindness at a time. As time passed, Lyric grew into a majestic dragon. Its wings spanned the sky, powerful and graceful. Its eyes held wisdom and intelligence beyond what Elior could have imagined. The farm became a symbol of unity, a place where humans and alien life worked together, learning from one another. Elior Kane, once an ordinary farmer, had become a leader, a teacher, and a friend to beings both human and alien. And Lyric, once a starving, frightened baby dragon, had become magnificent, a reminder of hope, trust, and the power of compassion. Together they looked at the stars, ready for whatever adventures awaited. They had faced danger, overcome fear, and built a bond that no one could break. The human and the dragon had changed each other, and the world around them, in ways that would be remembered for generations. Elior whispered to Lyric, "We've done something amazing, my friend. And this is only the beginning." Lyric chirped softly, wings stretching wide, glowing brilliantly. In that moment, Elior knew it was true. The future was magnificent, and together they would face it, side by side, ready for anything the galaxy could offer. The farm thrived, the villagers prospered, and the story of Elior, Kane, and Lyric spread across the stars. Humans learned that courage, kindness, and understanding could create miracles. Aliens learned that trust and friendship could cross worlds. And Elior knew, as he stood beside his dragon, that he had discovered the greatest lesson of all. Sometimes the smallest act of compassion, feeding a tiny, starving dragon, could change the course of history. From that day forward, Elior and Lyric became legends. Not because of their strength or power, but because of their bond, their trust, and the extraordinary way a human and a dragon could grow together, creating a magnificent future for all who witnessed them.